welcome to this deep dive. So you sent us this really interesting article, Why the Modern World is Bad for Your Soul.
Yeah,
And it definitely sparks some conversations here.
I bet. It's a provocative title.
It really is. So
Yeah.
our goal today is, well, to get under the skin of it, really unpack the core ideas.
Right, pull out the main insights for you.
Exactly. So you can quickly grasp what it's getting at, this whole idea about modern life and, well, our inner selves.
We're looking at the key themes, the implications.
Yeah, not just summarizing. We want to connect the dots.
Yeah.
You know, if you ever felt that way, like even with everything going on, all the connection, something's missing.
Oh, absolutely. A kind of background hum of unease.
Yeah, that's exactly what we want to explore.
And that feeling that something's missing despite all our modern advancements, that's really what this article digs into.
It suggests it's not just surface level stressed, is it?
No, not at all. It frames it as something deeper, like a subtle erosion of our inner life, almost invisible sometimes.
Okay, so let's jump into that first big idea. Consciousness under siege.
Right.
The article paints this picture, you know, constant bombardment, media notifications, endless info.
Overload.
Totally. And it uses this term spiritual amnesia. What does that actually mean day to day?
Well, spiritual amnesia, as they put it, it's like forgetting who we really are at our core.
Forgetting.
Yeah, forgetting our connection to something, bigger than just our immediate worries. You get so absorbed in the external stuff.
The demands, the distractions.
Exactly, that you lose touch with your inner compass, your sense of inherent worth, your connection to everything else. And what's really interesting, or maybe a bit unsettling, is the article's point that this distraction isn't entirely accidental.
What do you mean?
Well, it suggests certain systems, certain industries might maybe inadvertently benefit from a population that's more reactive, less focused inward.
So distracted population is easier to manage.
Yeah.
Or sell to.
Something like that. Think about chasing external validation, like social media likes. If your internal sense of worth is fuzzy, you look for it outside.
Wow, that really does make you think. Okay, so then the article contrasts this with older cultures.
Right, ancient perspectives. It mentions Kashmir Shaivism, indigenous wisdom.
And it says they saw humans primarily as spiritual beings. How different was that view?
Fundamentally different. It's about what comes first. These traditions, as the article explains, put spiritual awareness right at the center.
So spirit first, then body and world.
Pretty much. The physical world, our bodies, were seen more as temporary expressions of that deeper spiritual reality, not the other way around.
And the Industrial Revolution shifted that.
Big time. The article points to that as a huge turning point. The focus shifted, right, from nature, from internal rhythms, towards productivity, machine time.
Clocks, schedules, efficiency.
Exactly. And that changed our whole rhythm of life. It arguably started to disconnect our awareness from the natural world and maybe from our own inner spirituality, too.
So we went from looking to nature and within to looking at the clock and the factory floor, metaphorically speaking.
That's a good way to put it.
Now, obviously, a massive part of our world is technology. The article calls it a double-edged sword.
Uh-huh. And that's a crucial point. Technology itself, it's neutral.
Right, it's just a tool.
Exactly. It all depends on how we use it, what role we let it play.
So where's the danger?
The danger, according to the article, is when it starts replacing direct experience, replacing genuine human connection. Think about it. Our devices are amazing tools, right? Memory aids, navigation.
Information instantly.
Yeah, but that externalizing, relying on devices for things we used to do internally or through direct interaction. It can lead to a fragmentation of our attention.
Fragmented attention.
Yeah, constantly pulling us outward, making it harder to have that sustained inner focus, and maybe even subtly eroding things like empathy because digital interactions lack those face-to-face nuances.
It's like we're outsourcing bits of our humanity. Okay, so what are the consequences? The article talks about symptoms of this disconnection.
Right, both internal and external. Internally, it points to things like chronic fatigue, not just physical tiredness, but a deeper exhaustion.
Even if you haven't done much.
Exactly. Sleep problems are huge too. And that feeling of persistent boredom or nothing really engages you deeply.
A sort of existential emptiness.
That's the term they use, yeah. Feeling like something's missing, even if you have material comfort.
And relationally, how does it affect connections?
Well, the article highlights difficulty forming really deep bonds, maybe more judgment of others, a tendency to withdraw from community, from real connection.
and environmentally.
This is a big one. It suggests our often destructive relationship with nature is like a mirror reflecting this inner spiritual decay, a disconnect from seeing the sacred in the world around us.
Wow. Our inner state mirrored outside. Okay, this leads to another really fascinating, maybe challenging idea in the article. Consciousness is primary reality.
Yes, challenging the purely materialist view.
Right, and this brain as a receiver analogy, can you unpack that a bit? It's quite a shift in perspective.
It really is. It's a core argument. Instead of seeing consciousness as something the brain produces, like a byproduct of chemical reactions.
Which is the common view, mostly.
Right. This perspective suggests the brain is more like a receiver. Think of a TV or a radio.
Right.
The TV doesn't create the broadcast signal, does it? It just receives it, tunes into it, and translates it into picture and sound.
Ah, I see. So if the TV breaks.
The broadcast is still there. You just can't access it through that broken TV.
So applied to consciousness.
The idea is that consciousness itself might be fundamental, maybe a universal field, and our individual brain is the biological instrument that tunes into and experiences a slice of it.
So our individual awareness is part of something larger.
That's the implication, and it raises that question the article touches on. If the brain's a receiver, what signals are our modern lives tuning us into?
That's a big question. So if consciousness is primary, how do our societal structures play into this spiritual amnesia, this disconnection?
The article suggests several factors. Education systems, for instance. Historically, there was a shift away from maybe more holistic or spiritual elements towards prioritizing skills for industrial productivity.
Preparing workers, essentially.
You could say that. Then you have powerful forces like media, big tech, even the pharmaceutical industry sometimes, and consumer culture itself.
How do they fit in?
Well, the article implies they can perhaps unintentionally thrive when individuals feel fragmented or unfulfilled.
Because then we're looking for external solutions.
Yeah.
Products, entertainment, fixes.
Exactly. Seeking outside what might be missing inside. And it even touches on politics and economics, how emphasizing divisive identities, us versus them, can sometimes obscure that deeper sense of shared humanity or spiritual unity.
It's like these systems create a kind of feedback loop, keeping us looking outward.
That seems to be the argument, yeah. Whether intentional or just systemic inertia.
But interestingly, the article says that some ancient traditions kind of saw this coming.
It does. It mentions traditions like Kashmir Shaivism, Hermeticism, indigenous practices, suggesting they contained insights, maybe even warnings, about a time of widespread spiritual forgetting.
Like prophecies.
Perhaps not explicit prophecies in all cases, but certainly teachings that acknowledge this potential for disconnection. But crucially, they also offered ways back.
Ah, okay, so they offer solutions too.
Yes, ways to remember to reconnect. Things like emphasizing the interconnectedness of everything, seeing the divine or the sacred in ourselves and in the world, that whole as above, so below idea.
Finding the macrocosm in the microcosm.
Exactly. Seeing the universe within yourself and yourself within the universe. Powerful ways to counter that feeling of separation.
So it's not all doom and gloom then. The article does offer practical paths back, actionable things for you, the listener. Where do we start?
It lays out several key practices. One is self-inquiry.
Asking, who am I?
Yeah, but really asking, going beyond the labels, your job, your roles, your possessions, digging deeper.
Okay, what else?
Meditation is a big one. Cultivating that witness consciousness, being able to observe your thoughts, your feelings without getting swept away.
Just watching the mental traffic go by.
Kind of.
Yeah.
And the article mentions regulating the default mode network in the brain, the part linked to mind wandering and self-obsession. Meditation can help quiet that.
Makes sense.
Then there's nature immersion. Really simple, but powerful. Spending time in nature helps recalibrate our biological rhythms, reconnects us to something tangible and real outside the digital world.
Getting back in sync.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And mind-body practices, yoga, tai chi, somatic awareness work, these help reintegrate our experience, bringing awareness back into the body, healing that mind-body split.
Bring it all back together.
Community is important too. Engaging with supportive spiritual communities, finding people on a similar path.
It's your practice support.
Right. And finally, a really practical one, digital boundaries.
Ah, the tech again.
Yep. Things like intentional tech fasts, turning off notifications, creating device-free times or spaces, actively reclaiming your attention.
Those all sound like things you can actually do. It's not some abstract concept.
Absolutely. Tangible steps.
But it's more about weaving these into daily life, right? not necessarily huge, dramatic changes overnight. The article mentions morning rituals, mindful pauses.
Exactly that. Consistency over intensity. Sustainable habits.
Hmm.
Starting the day with intention, maybe a short meditation or reflection.
Instead of grabbing the phone first thing.
Right. Taking little mindfulness breaks during the day just to check in. How am I feeling? What's going on inside?
Mini reset.
Yeah. And maybe an evening reflection. Processing the day, letting go. These simple, consistent practices build momentum. They're more effective long-term than chasing peak experiences.
Right, it's the steady cultivation. Now, the article used some vivid metaphors we touched on. The brain is a receiver, the mirror reflection, the cosmic choke. Why are those helpful?
Metaphors are great tools, aren't they? They help us grasp these big, abstract ideas.
Like mental shortcuts.
Exactly. The TV analogy helps break that assumption that consciousness must come only from the brain.
Separates the signal from the receiver.
Precisely. The mirror reflection that clearly shows how easily we identify with the surface, the external image, and forget the actual substance, our inner self.
Mistaking the reflection for the real thing.
Yeah, and the cosmic joke, this idea that what we're frantically searching for out there
Happiness, fulfillment, peace.
is actually already in here. It's a reminder of our inherent wholeness, that we're not fundamentally lacking anything.
That's a powerful reframe. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the sort of main takeaways you'd want our listener, you, to hold on to from this article?
Well, I think the absolute core message is this. Your essential nature, who you really are beneath it all, is timeless, boundless. It's not defined by temporary things.
So remembering that essence.
Yes, and understanding how materialism, identifying only with the physical or temporary, can lead to that deep dissatisfaction the article talks about.
Okay, point one, remember your essence.
Yeah.
What else?
Second, recognizing that the pressures pushing towards the spiritual amnesia are often systemic.
Not necessarily some big conspiracy, but how systems work.
Right. Various societal needs and structures can inadvertently encourage fragmentation because it serves certain functions rather than, deliberate malice. Understanding that can maybe lessen personal blame and help see the bigger picture.
Less guilt, more awareness of the currents we're swimming in.
Exactly. And the final takeaway, maybe the most important.
Which is?
Reconnection is possible. Absolutely possible. It's always available.
But it takes effort.
It does. It requires conscious effort. A deliberate choice to turn inward, to cultivate awareness, especially when the cultural tide pulls so strongly outward. But the potential for a richer, more meaningful life, rooted in who you truly are, that's always there.
That's a really empowering note to end on. Reconnection is possible, but it's an active choice. This has been really insightful going through this article piece by piece. So thinking about all this, maybe for you listening, what's just one small shift? One tiny thing you could consciously do today or tomorrow to nurture that inner connection a little bit more?
Good question to ponder.
Yeah. Maybe it is just taking 3 deep breaths before checking email or actually looking at the sky on your way somewhere. Whatever feels right. Thank you so much for sharing this source with us and for, joining us for this deep dive.
Hope it sparks some useful thoughts.
We certainly hope so. Hopefully it's giving you some valuable food for thought on your own journey.